They call me Mr. X indeed, the special one just also deep inside the sickly, sorrowful, and lonely. I was down beneath the bottom when my vacant staring caught him, proudly promenading like they owned the street in all its stinking masses, free fumes and giving gas to the acrid and exhausted air. But they had that certain presence, like the ether or the essence of the cleansing upper atmosphere. A laughing, loving in without a doubt, they simply strode about. The streets had other creatures left alone. I ran across myself compulsive with a feeling of a pulsing drum that pounded down upon my bones. A tingling in my tangled brain was screaming that this was insane, but it also told me touch it too. I told the masses, and with that, I made my passage from the lonely to the chosen few. Openly, they smiled to greet me like they always knew they'd meet me, with the cripples and the underfed. I knew I must appear as someone far beyond the common come-on, so I could not say my name was Ed. I'm Mr. X, who wants to come and who expects to help and guide your efforts to succeed. They laughed. They laughed a little bit at me and then said, Mr. X indeed, and hugged me. Hugged me. Somehow hard. And tenderly. Shortly after I first met them, something that I said upset them, and perhaps we should have parted then. I was saying how important that they were and what a fortune could be made if we were friends. But I did not understand why they took in and had to stand by those that were so worthless and despised. Then they got extremely angry, shouting that the seedy gang behind them may not have much value in my mind, but they are people who are needing comfort, and if you see them like you see some roaches on the floor, well, then the sad one must be you, who sees himself as too good for the weak or ones with warts. You disdain and criticize those that have been compromised but really have no values of your own. Maybe you should leave and find some, beg or steal, or maybe cry some, like a dog that's begging for a bone.
Somebody's coming. Something's coming, but not real soon.
At first, I was too shocked to believe that they'd suggest that I should leave. But what was even worse was when I saw that they preferred their gutter-rutting friends above my smugly strutting. And I must admit, it left me meek and raw. So I begged and then beseeched them, let me stay, and you could teach me how to touch this tenderness you found. And of course, we reconciled with hugging arms and tugging smiles that left me more secure, still in doubt. I truly loved and felt devotion to them both, but I was broken up and feeling powerless inside. I must become important to them, intertwined and tied into them, or else I'd lose my faults and newfound pride. Now, there was this thing about them that caused me at times to doubt them and created conflict in my mind. Usually there was a he one, and there also was a she one. But then they were the opposite sometimes. But one of them, when she was she, smiled and burned a hole in me. A hole that was too hard for me to hide. Once I had a dream about her, alone, in a field, outside a tiny little cottage in a storm. The house was much too small to use it, so she bumped her head and bruised it, trying to get through the tiny door. Afterwards, I went to tell her, but I felt it was a he that nodded at my words like he was bored. And of course, when this would happen, There was still a she to tap upon my shoulder in a most uncommon charade. But there wasn't her that looked then. No, close perhaps, but like a bookend that had come misshapen from its mate. So I told myself there must be some way I can make them just be who I want to be with all the time. For it kept me at a distance. But my senses kept insisting it was much more interesting inside. Once, when we were on a bus between some cities, we discussed the things that happened in their early years. Their youngest time was spent alone, while living with an uncle, only half remaining from a foreign war. His upper half was well enough, but in his pants, between the cuffs and where his zipper stopped, flesh had departed. So he rolled around on wheels, self-sufficient, in a peeling little house he'd never paint again. But it was spotless, to a point, 2 feet above the floor, and warmth was in the grin upon his chin. The people that they met were few, and might have been disturbed by two who looked so strange and oddly intertwined. But living with their stumpy uncle, who was unconcerned and rumpled, simply made them clueless to their kind. They thought that we were put together randomly, just like the weather, with no uniformity in mind. But that vision only lasted for a while, until he passed away and they were sent off to a home. The children there did not have parents, were all alike and always staring at the two who never were alone. And so they cried and then withdrew from those who shouted, laughed, and who made misery a value to condone. Once outside, they heard some children shouting that a car had killed one of their pets out in the road ahead. As they approached the fallen dog, some blood appeared, and then they saw its quivering and disconnected leg. So they kneeled upon the ground and lifted up the leg they found and wedged it down below their necks where their bodies were united. Then the sun, which had been blinding, waked and in an instant, all was dark. Suddenly, the air was still, as apprehension filled the moment like the shadows of a shark. But when the sun returned above them, no one laughed or made fun of them, for the barking dog had been reborn, running free and resurrected, causing him to be respected by those who had avoided them before. I told them how my wife had fallen into sickness and calling out my name with questions on her tongue. We had always been so happy that at first I wasn't sad because I thought my love could keep her strong. But I never fought so wrongly because the fever fought too strongly and it seemed she never fought at all. Soon she died and I despaired upon the love seat we had shared in spring and summer, winter and the fall. I tried and tried to understand why love itself could not command my true love from the comas of her mind. Empty, open, and foreboding, life became an endless ocean, somehow stained with silence as I pined. Death had brought its separation, giving me an education of a dull and slowly drifting day. I filled my emptiness with sorrow, begging what I could not borrow from the friends I finally drove away. Yes, my life was nearly ruined till I saw what you were doing. Now I strive to keep on serving you. Life is good, but I am better, for at last I finally let her go. Sadly, now I see the answer All her life she was a dancer. But no one ever played the song she knew. As I begged and then implored, they told me other childhood stories, while never quite conceding me access to the Holy Union, which was somehow near and looming, just beyond the limit of my reach. For they had a way of keeping it aloof, while never seeming even vaguely rude or incorrect. Then one day it finally happened, just before they took a nap. We joked around the room in which they slept. They were laughing at a problem where I hustled out some slob who screamed that they were phonies, fakes, and liars. They snickered at my righteous rage and said that I should act my age, or else they'd have to hold me back next time. I laughed and said that it would take more than just two freaks to make me stop if someone bothered them again. Then at once, we started shoving back and forth until a sudden move caught me completely off my guard. Quickly, they surrounded me. Inside a wall of flesh, I found my only freedom rested in a hand that dangled up and down between their sides until I jerked and seemed to watch it flutter down upon their bomb. Suddenly a shock went through me, and a moment slipped into the room that clearly was not there before. Looking up, we all connected in a triangle of eyes, reflecting tension and unsaid excitement too. Soon it passed in nervous laughter, but I felt a change. Soon after, we unlocked our limbs, and I withdrew. I pushed and pushed and pushed them through the towns and through the bushes, and the word was spreading like a horde. Come and see the holy twosome. They can heal and they can do some things that no one ever did before. So they came for holy healing, both the belching and the squealing, and the ones that maybe just were bored.
Will everyone please stand for Reverend X and the Holy Twin?
Down the aisle they slowly paraded as I smiled and masqueraded as the liberator of their fear. Kneeling them along the line, I taped a tiny piece of pine upon the chin of every new believer. Then from that, a copper wire stretched across a tubeless tire and ended in a severed hemisphere. Then at once, the fees were taken and the apprehension shaken, for the twins would silently appear. Full of love and life and smiling, knowing not that all the while I too was smiling like a proud cashier. Silently, I stood between them, holding up the crimson gleaming circle with its ends not quite in line. Then I lifted up the cover, softly, like it was my lover, and I felt them shudder as they sighed. As I clamped the metal on it, something like a liquid donut shimmered by the Holy Union's side. Then the people screamed and shouted as the donut grew and sprouted little bitty dust balls made of fire, which then soon enough descended down the lines that finally ended at the screams and unbelieving cries, for soon the cripples would be walking and the dummies would be talking, but no one knew exactly how or why. I was standing at the fireplace, thinking of my own desire, which seemed to be a hole of hurt and harm, when I heard a little giggle, sounding like some silly piglet playing in the mud so soft and warm. So I went and looked around, and from the bathroom door, I found some sounds that had not come from there before. So I shouted, "Come on out!" And soon their faces, full of doubt, peeked at me from a newly opened door. They said that they were having fun with something that they found someone had left inside a little leather pouch. "Let me see," I said, and took it with a snatch, then left a crooked smile across the corner of my mouth. It was a smooth and shiny object with a purpose and a job I recognized and easily defined. Looking up, I saw one pair of eyes that boldly stabbed and stared deep into the secrets of my mind. I knew it was. It was the she thing, not the they, not the he thing. Looking back at me and my desire, inflamed, I reached and pulled them close. Then at once, I had them both off balance, and we fell into a pile of quivering and awkward bodies, arms and legs and elbows caught beneath, around, and in between us all. Hastily, I helped him up and said that we should soon discuss the object, which was unidentified. I left him with a lame excuse, but if I were to tell the truth, I was confused. I was confused by what I felt inside. Then I woke up from a sleeping with a restless, reaching feeling, but I did not know what I was reaching for. So I got up and started walking, and soon found that I was stalking prey that I could utilize for more than just an easy conversation or an evening's inspiration. Now was the time to get my fill. And as I walked, I thought of flies that stuck to sticky pecan pies that people put up on the windowsill, and how those fine fat flies would feed until they satisfied their greed, then buzzed about in panic till they died. Knowing where my feet would take me if I kept on moving made me see myself exactly like those flies, drawn into a situation that with some consideration never would fulfill its smiling smell. But there was no hesitation in my deed or in my making sure my steps were silent as they fell. As I walked into the darkness, something like a woken sharpness penetrated deep into the room. Then I touched her arm and throat and found beneath my hand a coat of moisture like the inside of a wound. The other one was breathing deeply, so I thought he must be sleeping, but my judgment may have come too soon. Hold me tight and be my master, someone whispered, and I fastened fingers tight around the tiny wrist that I firmly held behind her as I mounted and confined her with a fury potent as a fist. Then I heard a little snicker, but I was so busy with her that I did not notice him or care. He quickly put his hands around my neck and squeezed as if the sounds I made should not evacuate my throat, causing me to moan too loudly as I gasped and jerked on out. The fire that I no longer could control. I was first to see the flashing, blinding light of liquid lashing out my arms with my convulsions spread to my writhing young companions who were lost in unabandoned cream that soon would crack. And wet the bed. Afterwards, when it was quiet and the passion had subsided, I told them that we should do this again. But then I said, it would be wrong to play these games of weak and strong without me around to lend a helping hand and point out all the dangers in it, for there were so many, and they simply were too young to understand. The following day, I did some walking, for my mind did too much talking to itself and left me feeling torn. I thought of our last episode and how it ruptured and eroded feelings from my closely guarded core. Also then, I knew corruption leaked into this last eruption, and its oily odor stained my mind. Long ago, I knew that I was sly perhaps and and not too nice, but underneath, I thought my goals divine. But now, how could I tolerate behavior that could suffocate innocence that could not be renewed? Desire collided in my mind with thoughts I once had found divine, and torment twisted me between the two. Aimlessly, I slowly wandered as my footsteps took me onward, painfully conflicted and confused. Soon I found myself distracted by a window that attracted barbers to a display of their wares. And what was underneath my stare was silver sharp and could not care about confusion or about despair. It only had one job to do. And since I knew it cut so true, the chaos in my mind was clarified. So I went inside and bought it from a man who never caught the tingle that it raised along my spine. Electrically, a pleasant tension, like a liquid in suspension, lifted up my spirits like a gift. Now my feeling was well-being, but I could not help from seeing that my hands were shaking as I left. Walking home, my thoughts returned to what I told him we had learned, but much of what occurred remained unsaid. Yes, it was a lie, I told them. Not to help, but just to hold them with me. But what I really should have said is lies can often bring you power. Like a coffin filled with flowers, gives life to the living, but not the dead.
It's almost over. It's almost done. There's only a 2 or 2 left. Then we are gone.
I returned while they were eating supper, seated side by side upon their special stool. So I said when they were finished with their whole wheat toast and spinach, we should go back to the secret room that had only been constructed recently to be conductive to the force that grew around the twins. Once inside, we all admired its silver-pointed gleaming spire that raised its crystal crown into the wind. Up and up towards the ceiling, gracefully it stretched, not yielding to the confines of the secret room. For it pierced an open circle and disappeared into the murky night that held its apex like a plume. The room had been an inspiration of the twins that I'd taken, building it of wood and tile and chrome, and they would be inside for hours as the rain dripped down the tower. Sitting on a bench just two alone. But this time, we were not there for inspiration, but to bear our other side and feel the kiss of flesh. Take your clothes off, I commanded, like a bold and common bandit, basking in a cool, controlling feeling. I was standing back behind them with a length of line to tie them once their nakedness had been revealed. Kneel, I said, becoming heated, for the task had been completed, and I felt my goal was drawing near. Then I heard a little snicker. What was that? I said. And giggles swarmed around me like a storm. Stop it, stop it, stop, I said. But it seemed to spread and spread. Stop it, or I won't show you anymore.
We can't believe that you're so dumb to think we needed anyone to show us what we've always known about.
What? I screamed in disbelief, so certain that I was the thief that took away their purity. I shouted, but what about the other night when she and I were locked so tight? And laughter drowned me out, and so I stopped.
What makes you think it was her?
The mocking voices said, with words that cut me like a gutted frog, but I know it must have been because I smelled her heated skin and...
Don't you see there is no she now? Don't you see there is no she now? Don't you see there is no she now?
Thought it was no she, but there was only them and me. They were laughing in my face too loud. So I reached into my pocket and a feeling like a shock exuded from my fingertips and found a path around it up my butt and focused just below my gut. Made me hold my breath before the blade. But falling last and finally free me from the anger and the screaming radiating from my raging face. So I slit the Holy Union, totally in it 202, reached the bar and split them on the ground, causing me to fire my passion as I stared into the gas that quivered like a disemboweled trout. So great upon my throbbing penis was the pull toward this fetus that there were no thoughts inside my mind. Only all-consuming lust to be inflamed and face the sun and smile about it while I came inside. So I slipped my dick into it, thrusting into pain, and spewing blood around the room and in my face, causing me to fuck it harder, deep and fast. I pushed apart the shoulders that were down below my waist, screamed for slicing up the air as eyes rolled back and feet were bared. My lips were stretched too tight and could not cry. There could be but one conclusion to this sick, distorted fusion. And of course it came. And so did I. Madly with my face contorted, I reached down and pushed apart their shoulders just before I lost control, causing me to hear a rippy, sicky sound of fleshy splitting as I drifted towards the big black hole. But just before I hit the floor, I noticed one was rolling over, showing me a smooth, unblemished thigh that ended in a red eruption just below her belly button. But maybe it was only in my mind. Maybe it was only in my mind. Maybe it was only in my mind. And so my story winds on down towards an ending that I've found acceptable, but some might disagree. I've lived my life and taken chances, and if some were strange by standards that were less important than my needs, well, I guess I could be seen as crooked, evil, bent, and twisted, looking down upon the strings I tried to pull. But I see the strings extending up and down and never ending as we dance around ourselves like fools to the tunes that only we hear and the voices only we fear, each inside a solitary island. But the contact that we do make as we give and take abuse stays, and its value only multiplies. Yes, I'm alone, but not forgotten. For each comes and sees me often, sitting on a stool shaped like a heart. And we laugh and reminisce about a life that once was bliss before an act of passion made us part. Oh yeah, they're still together, but now their bond is made of leather, not the flesh and blood it used to be. Yeah, they're still full of life and healing, but now it has a different feeling, and only for the few that have the need of pain and pleasure when they merge, indulging in insistent urgency that only lives for seconds at a time. For pain and pleasure are the twins, and slightly out of focus, spin around us till we finally realize that everything that gives us pleasure also gives us pain to measure it by. And in order to survive all our lives, we love illusion, neatly caught between confusion and the need to know we are alive.